Zötler, Hefeweizen Hell.
Life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This is a bottle of Zötler Hefeweizen Hell, which is basically a light coloured wheat beer. Now, looking at that, I thought it was going to be like a crystal Weizen, which is basically a filtered wheat beer, but it's not. Apparently they do a dark and a light. Obviously the dark is called a Dunkelweizen. They've called this Hefeweizen Hell. I wouldn't have, well, I'm going to say I wouldn't have. What weight have I got? I wouldn't have classed it as a Hefeweizen Hell. I would have just called it a Hefeweizen. That's what I know. I mean, I'm not saying they should have done this. I mean, who the fuck am I to tell them what to do? But that was a little bit confusing for me. But everything's been cleared up. And as the Germans say, alles gut, alles klar. Anyway, enough about my fucking futile attempts at learning German. This is from the Zötler Brewery, and they're based in fucking, can you guess it? Bavaria. But they're based in a region called Allgäu, which my mate Norby has brought over a load of Bavarian beers for me, and a lot of them are from that region. Obviously, there's been a few reviews on the channel from the Allgäuer Bubblegum brewery, and I've done quite a few of them on the channel, and on the whole they've been pretty darn good. And there's been a couple of other beers from that region, the Hirschbräu from the Privat-Brauerei, Hers, is it? I think it is. I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head, but yeah, they've been pretty good. I liked the Doppelbock. I thought that was a really outstanding beer. That was a fantastic beer. But this is a Weizen. Now, I do like wheat beer. It's one of my favourite styles, along with Helles, Dunkel, Doppelbocks, and basically everything Germany does. They just do good beer, don't they? But this is a Bavarian wheat beer, which is a little bit special in my opinion, because the standard in Bavaria for wheat beer is very, very high. And I've probably sound like a broken record, but Schneider Weiss and Weihenstephaner are probably two of the best, in my opinion, not just in Bavaria, but in Germany and in the world, in my opinion, because I think every wheat beer that's brewed outside of Germany is just an imitation. I mean, don't get me wrong, there may be some good ones in there, but I've yet to try them. I've yet to try a wheat beer from outside of Germany that's really blown me away. There really hasn't been that many at all. There was a local brewery, Old Dairy, and they did a Hefeweizen. I'm trying to pronounce it properly, but failing miserably. I didn't get a chance to try it, but apparently it got fairly good reviews, and I would have loved to have tried it, because what makes Hefeweizen, hence the name, Hefe in German means yeast, it would have had to have come up to that kind of standard. And in the UK, I don't think we've got that kind of yeast over here. And if you're not familiar with the style, I just want to reiterate how important that is. That Hefeweizen style relies on the yeast for its flavour. Yes, the hops are in there. Really, to be honest, they really don't make much of a difference from what I've found. The malt, well, there's obviously wheat in there, and you do get a little bit of the wheat flavour on there, and there is a little bit of malt on certain wheat beers, but of course the overriding flavour in these type of beers is the banana and the clove, which comes from the yeast. If you've ever tried a Belgian beer, it's exactly the same. Yeast is so important in beer. I mean, I've done a video on yeast and why yeast is important, but it's not just for turning the sugars into alcohol in an alcoholic drink. I mean, that just applies across the board. If you're talking about wine as well, you know, wine has different yeast strains as well, but for beer especially, that I would say in certain cases, well, in let's take wheat beer, for example. I would say the yeast, it makes or breaks a wheat beer. And I would say it accounts for 60-70% of the flavour. And there have been some good wheat beers that I've tried. There's been some pretty fucking shit wheat beers that I've tried as well. Some strange ones as well. The one from Bolton, I always quote this one. And as I say, wheat beer, in my opinion, has got a certain distinct flavour. It's the banana and the clove that make it. And to a certain extent, some of the bubblegum-esque, fruity style flavours as well. That all comes from the yeast. If you're lacking in any of them, then your beer tends to sort of go downhill. But Bolton used alt beer yeast. Now, Weiss beer is a top fermented beer, so I did see where Bolton were coming from, because they used top fermenting yeast, but it just didn't have any of the banana or clove, and it tasted really weird. And to be honest, it wasn't that great, to be honest. I thought it was going to be maybe a good example of a North German wheat beer, but no, it just wasn't. Check out the review. Use the search function on the channel. That's really all I can say. As I say, the brewery is based in a place called Aargau. That's near the Alps. In fact, it's near a mountain in Bavaria, and that mountain is called the Grüten Mountain. And if you're ever in that region and you do happen to go up that mountain, there is a couple of things to look at up there. One of the Bavarian, I think it's radio channels, has a mast up there, or some transmitter up there, because it's very high up, obviously. But there's also a monument to the Gebirgsjäger. Now, if you don't know what the Gebirgsjäger are, they were the German mountain troops who fought during World War II. They were involved in a lot of the early campaigns of the Blitzkrieg, the invasion of Norway. They were heavily involved in the Eastern Front, around Finland, around that area as well, and also in the Balkans as well. And to be honest, on quite a lot of fronts, even in Crete as well, would you believe, they were quite heavily used, along with the German paratroopers, or the Fallschirmjäger, as they was known. Anyway, this is not a history channel. This is a beer channel. I am waffling on. Let's get on to the beer. Right, this is a 500ml bottle. It is 5.2%. It is a Bayerisch beer, which means it's a genuine Bavarian beer. There is the geographical protected status on the back of the bottle. They, as I say, they've been going since 1477. The website, though, and if you're watching Zötler, fucking sort it out, because your history page goes to a 404. So I can't really give you any more in the history of the brewery, but sort your fucking website out. But there's no brew sheet on there either, so I am just really going to have to wing this one and say, yeah, it contains Wasser, Weizen malt, Gersten malt, Hopfen and Hefe, which basically means water, malted barley, wheat, hops and yeast. So there you go. Sell by date is 26th of the 4th, 23. It is now January. It's April, you twat. It's fucking January. And it's fucking taters out there. This is supposedly a summer drink. I'm drinking it in winter. Anarchy in Kent strikes again. There is the label, in case you were wondering what the label looked like. I've had a couple of beers from the Zötler brewery before. I can't remember what one it was. Was it a Dunkel? I think it might have been a Dunkel. And was it any good? I don't think it was that great. And that's probably testimony, because I don't really remember it. But maybe the Hefeweizen is good. Let's stop guessing, let's stop gassing, and let's get it open to see what's going on. Rightio, I'm not good. Shall I use me posh one? Oh, fuck it, I'll use me posh one. Might as well. Oh, there you go, look, first time. Huzzah. There's the cap, if you're interested in that kind of thing. There you go, if you're interested in that. One for the collection, yeah. Right, now I've got this fucking glass. Don't fucking laugh or take the piss, but I'm going to pour all my wheat beers into this from now on, because I've got normal size wheat beers and it takes fucking ages for the head to go down and with all the carbonation. And the thing with wheat beers, you have to get all the yeast in. And I wait and wait and wait for that head to die out to try and get the whole lot in. With this, I can get the whole lot in. So I'm drinking it out of this. If you don't like it, tough. My channel, my rules. Right, I'll get a little bit more in there. You see what I mean though? I mean, there's about a quarter of a bottle left. That would fill up a normal Hefeweizen glass. You're supposed to give it a little bit of a swirl, and don't fucking roll it on the table like some dodgy beer reviewer. I was going to call him a name then, but I shouldn't really be slagging off other beer reviewers. But he used to roll an open bottle across the table. Why? I asked him why, and all he could say was, well, the barmen in Bavaria do it. I was like, no, they don't. They maybe do it with a fucking closed bottle, not with an open bottle. Idiot. But there you go. He's a fucking Arsenal fan. What'd you expect? No disrespect to any Arsenal fans. That's my get out clause for a beating. Right, here's everything in the glass. You wouldn't believe the amount of times I've accidentally hit this off stuff and it hasn't broken. One day that will change. Right, on the nose. Aromas are muted. Oh no, hang on. I lie. There's a nice sweetness, and there's strong bubblegum aromas coming from this. Very strong. And there's also, it's almost like a banana milkshake crossed with a fruit salad. Now that sounds disgusting and sickly, but it's not. It's really nice. Oh look, and there's a little aroma from the wheat as well. This smells quite nice. It's very much so on the sweet side. Now some of the Schneiderweiss stuff, you do get a little bit more spice on there, but this smells, I wouldn't say exceptionally sweet, but for a wheat beer, it's sweet. Right. Wow, there is nice aromas coming from there, I will say. The bubblegum on this is really strong. Now, normally you get that on the flavour, but it's rare that certainly for me, that I've got that on the aroma, but this has definitely got it. And it's not an off flavour, it's part and parcel of what a good wheat beer should smell of and taste of. Oh, that's nice. That's a mixture of the malt and the yeast that's doing that. That's lovely. That smells really nice. Now I have to say, if it was going just on the aroma, that would be a fucking 10 out of 10, because it does smell really nice. But the proof, as I always say, is in the tasting. So let's get this down my fat Gregory Peck. Zum Wohl, as I say in Germany. There is a defined sour note to that, which I'm not complaining about. But the sweetness on the aroma is a little bit misleading, because there's a bit of sourness going on there. The banana is quite prevalent in this. The clove, not so much. Carbonation is big. The body is a little bit weak on this one. Normally on wheat beers, because wheat does give, wheat's characteristics are two things. It's used for head retention, and it's used to give beer some body. And I know I'm using a big glass now, so I have to forego the head. I mean, there is some head that's on there. If the glass was narrower, that head would be bigger. But there isn't much body on this, and body, of course, is the other thing that the wheat does give a beer. body is a little bit thin and a little bit watery. But there is, on the finish, there is a nice bubblegum ester on there as well, and it's quite pleasant. When I say bubblegum, I'm talking about, do you remember the old juicy fruits, chewing gums? I'm saying chewing gum. They call it, it's called bubblegum, but for my palate, I am immediately put in mind of a sort of a juicy fruit chewing gum. I mean, could you blow bubbles with juicy fruit? I don't know. I don't even think you can get juicy fruit now. I haven't seen it in fucking ages. You used to see it everywhere when I was a kid. But it's all these, is it airwaves now or whatever it's called? These bloody things here. Airwaves. But I think there's some good points on this beer and there's some bad points. Let me list the good points first and then I'll get on to the bad points. Good points. Nice sort of banana and bubblegum on the finish. There is quite a nice mouthfeel to it, as in the carbonation isn't too aggressive. It's quite nice. The bad points, there's not much clove on this, and the body is a little bit thin and watery, which I have found in a few wheat beers before. Now, they do have their place, these type of wheat beers. Now, if you want a light drinking summer wheat beer, then that's, I would say, what you're looking for. Really cold, which this is. This has just come out the fridge, and they say about 8 to 10 degrees. This is probably a little bit colder, but your flavours are big on this anyway, regardless of how, well, I wouldn't say regardless of how cold, but if you're around that figure, 8 to 10 degrees, if you're a little bit lower, you're still going to get most of the flavour. Not all of it, but you're going to get most of it. But I'm not getting any of the clove, which is a little bit disappointing, because I do like what it's known as a medicinal taste, and I do quite like that. There's a little trace of the malt character on there. Malt mixed with wheat, but it's not big. This is all about the yeasty esters, sweet yeasty esters of banana and bubblegum. And that's really all about what this beer is all about, to be honest. And disappointing with the body on it. It's a bit thin, a little bit watery. As I say, it does have its place if you're drinking it in summer, but I like a little bit more of a fuller body on it, and a little bit more of a clove character on it. But certainly drinkable. Not the worst wheat beer in the world. So, what is the verdict on Zötler beer Hefeweizen Hell? Okay, and just okay. That's as far as I would go. The good points, as I've just mentioned, are the nice banana and bubblegum esters that come off that. You don't normally get that bubblegum type ester. You only get that in a certain few wheat beers, and it's nice when you do. It's because it's not. It's an expected flavour, but you don't always get it in there. The disappointing part of this is the thin body and the lack of clove from that yeast. But I have to say, it's not that bad. Certainly drinkable. I would say that would make a great summer drink. Possibly even someone who's never tried wheat beer before would probably like that. Now, I do know that a lot of people who try wheat beer for the first time, and I'm speaking from experience because this was me, all right? Now, I was a seasoned lager drinker, oh, Christ almighty, years ago. And I remember we was in the Witherspoons, and my mate, he's actually my manager now. He bought me a bottle of Tuka Weiss beer by mistake. He thought it was a lager. And I poured it out, and I took a couple of mouthfuls of it, and I thought, I don't like this, mate. And I handed it, and he'll fucking drink anything. He's a fucking beer monster. And he said, I'll have it. And he fucking drank it, and I went up and got a lager. I don't know what, some abomination that I got. But I eventually came round to the flavour, and I think it was from drinking Weizenstefano. I bought some Weizenstefano when I moved to Buckner Still. I didn't know what it was. I thought it was a lager, a German lager. And I drank it, and I thought, this ain't lager, but it's fucking nice. And yeah, it just goes to show the difference in quality. Now, don't get me wrong, Tuka, their Weiss beer wasn't bad. I didn't mind it. And I did. Here's another one for you. God, this was weird. This was. I'm not into drinking games. I don't fucking like fucking about with beer. I think if people who play drinking games are just, I don't know, they're novice drinkers. If you're going to drink, I don't want a fucking activity put in my way for me getting drunk. I want to get drunk, and that's it. I don't want fucking tasks or fucking hurdles. But there's a game called the Hour of Power. It was told to me by a quizmaster from there's a craft brew pub in Maidstone, and he told me about the Hour of Power. And it's basically what you do is you get a shot glass, you get a beer, any beer, and you pour some every minute for an hour. And obviously it's a shot, so you just neck it. And I did it with a bottle of Tuka Weiss beer, and that was in a pub in Maidstone. It was the Wetherspoons when they sold it in the Wetherspoons pubs. And for the first half hour, I was all right. And then it came up to 3/4 of an hour, and I thought, fuck me, this is not good. And remember, this was one bottle of beer. I only had one beer. By the end of it, I was fucking rotten. Believe me. And I know Tuka, I think it was 5.2 or 5.3%. And I'm not advocating you play this game, right? You certainly shouldn't be playing this with Belgian beers or any fucking barley wines or anything, because it will be a fucking disaster. But even with a very, I wouldn't say a very low ABV, but a lower ABV beer, it will get you fucking rat-arsed. And it's basically just a shot glass every minute for an hour, just filling up with a beer. Jesus Christ. And I was not right for a couple of days after that. And that's just a wheat beer. So yeah. Where am I going with this bollocks that I'm talking? Let's get back onto this one. What am I going to give this? It's got its good points, I will say. But for a wheat beer coming from Bavaria, I think the game should have been upped a little bit more. So I'm going to give it a 6.5, and I'm being a little touch generous with that 6.5, but it ain't bad. This will cost you £3. You can get this in the UK. I know I've checked up, and Has Trembling Madness do it, and a couple of other online reviewers do it as well, and it will cost you £3. Personally, I think you'd be better off if you're in the UK. I think you'd be better off buying another top quality wheat beer, such as Weizenstefano, as I've just mentioned, Schneider Weiss, Hacker-Shaw, you know, the usual suspects, Iinga, a brewery like that. I think this is just a little bit below par, but it ain't bad, you know. And it's a Bavarian beer, and I'm comparing it with the best, but it's a little bit below par. So there you go. And remember, beer is working class champagne.